Brilliant. Hello, good day, everyone. So see how it works. So wonderful, forward, backwards. Thank you, everybody, and welcome to the second CSN ICT conference in Cyprus. Absolute pleasure. No Zoom call, no Teams call. I can't be muted, so that's really nice to be on stage again and seeing so many people again, old friends, new friends, and people I haven't met before. It's been a long time, I think 5 years ago, and the island looked completely different to what it is now. So I just enjoy being on the road again and being with you here. Today, we're actually going to dive a little bit more into technical ship management, because that's, I think, one of the main topics we have here on the island. And we're going to touch upon some of the points that Captain Adami referred to today, which I thought was a very thought-provoking and interesting presentation, because in all of this, when we're talking about IoT and connectivity and digitization of the industry, we shouldn't forget that this industry is a lot about pragmatism and the human factor. So let's start out and see what we do. The foundation for successful tech management really lies in the experience and skill set. And that hasn't changed for about 200 years. That's what it's like in the startup during the Industrial Revolution. When we manage assets, when we manage factories, when we manage any type of technical matter, we need experience and we need a skill set. And that's been about as true in the past as it is today. And when we're managing these assets, we're looking at three primary pillars. That's condition, performance, and compliance, generally speaking. No matter what your role is in shipping, whether you're an owner, a stevedore, an insurance broker, a technical manager, those three pillars always need to be addressed in one way, shape, or form. So when we're looking at the condition always refers to, does a system work or not? What's it like? What is it effective or not? Whereas performance relates to how well it does its task, how efficient is it, how efficient is its operation. And compliance obviously addresses the legal matter, the legal requirements, so we can be sure that we all work within the rules and regulations set by the governing bodies. However, on top of that are sitting two layers that are really interesting. It's data and the human touch. And no matter whether that data is digital or a hard copy or the old type of data, we need both ways, and they depend on one another. Humans depend on data, and data depends on humans to deliver it, assess it, and justify it for its decision-making process. So when we're putting IoT data, real-time data in the hands of experienced people, we're seeing a real breakthrough, because now we're combining relevant data, important data, with the experience and skill set of people who are driving the industry, who are delivering the human touch, the uncomputable, the human element that's necessary to deliver the message that data delivers us in a fact-based and transparent manner. And this is why IoT is really the basis and the foundation for successful asset management. Simple telemetry has evolved over the past decades, really, from crude dashboards to now being customizable, easily digestible, deliverable by humans to other humans, deliverable by the superintendent to the chief engineer or the crew on board of the vessel. And that allows us now to collaborate. It allows us to share the same data, the same platform, and act upon it appropriately. And what that means in maritime terms is that while we're assessing the condition and the performance of sensors, assets, vessels, and fleets, we now can interact face-to-face with the people. And that's how our life has changed over the past 2 years. 2 years ago, when I would have had a call with any of you, it would have been probably over the phone. Guess what happens now? Everything is Teams and Zoom all of a sudden. It's a face-to-face interaction. And that's what people want, and that's what people need. And that's why we're also appreciating being here today, right? Being able to be amongst other people, sharing ideas and sharing thoughts. Now, digital technology gives us that opportunity to deliver that human interaction in the middle of the ocean, and not when the vessel is on its critical path, sitting in the port where everybody's under pressure, where the vessel has a defined ETD, and the technician is on board trying to resolve the problem under pressure from everyone. No, we can address these issues already in the middle of the ocean. And we had some interesting experience. I've witnessed a remote survey in the Indian Ocean the other day, carried out by a reputable class society and the crew members with adequate connectivity and a wonderful service where both sides interacted properly over screen. So that's a wonderful development in my mind. So how do we act properly and how do we share data? Well, the industry already has introduced certain standards. So there's the ISO 19848 standard, for instance, that provides a global data standard. So that allows you to make data comparable across vessels, across fleets, and around the globe. And it's actually nothing new. It's something that the Japanese shipbuilding industry has introduced about 15 years ago and has followed that suit. Well, last year this has been introduced as an ISO standard. And now that data is a proper foundation for everybody to interact, but also for these wonderful software developers to build solutions on standardized data. And that means lower cost in deploying those solutions in the field. Because that's ultimately what it's all about. Saving money, saving the environment as well. Just deploying a technician from, let's say, Northern Europe, where I'm from, to the Mediterranean, that's easily a ton of CO2. Just for that person to jump into the cab, get to the airport, fly out, get to the cab, to the port, and back again. That's a ton of CO2, no questions asked. And that can all be saved. Not all of it, mind you, and this is where Captain Adami reminded us that obviously there's cost for connectivity and for the call and for the technology as well. But compared to what it is in the traditional sense, it's absolutely minor. So coming back to technical ship management, it's all about vessel availability. And vessel availability relates to the efficient operation, meaning no delays, no breakdowns, no deficiencies, no accidents, and all at the possible lowest operating cost, of course. And that's where IoT-enabled services can shine and make a real difference, where we have direct machine-to-machine connectivity and can assess or even pre-assess the condition and the performance of sensors on board of the vessel to protect crew, cargo, and the operation of the vessel in the field. And technical issues will always arise. A vessel is a complex system. It's not going to change. It never changed. Again, coming back to ultimate truth in the industry, it was complex to run a vessel 100 years ago. It still is complex today, and it surely, autonomy or not, will be even more complex moving forward. So we got to be prepared to embrace troubleshooting activities and make that easy and accessible and utilize the experience and skill sets that we have. And that's where remote interaction comes into place. That's where remote surveys, audits, and vettings come into place. That's what makes a difference in how these services are being assessed, approached, and executed in the field. Now, what that means and what that translates to for a technical management company is an improved customer support. What is it that we can do for the owners? We can now basically roll out a similar management style as we're executing it to our own fleet. Because there's a little bit of a difference between the own fleet and third-party managed vessels. Why can't we assess the same tools, the same operational control over a third-party managed vessel? Well, there are tools to make that happen now. There are tools and services that allow you to roll out a software suite, proper equipment health monitoring, digital service packages, performance optimization service, all based on available and subscribable tools and services in the industry. And that opens the door to myriad of services from professional application providers, coming from equipment manufacturers, digital service providers, traditional service companies now embracing the remote support, as well as class societies. So this is all leading to an era where we're looking at new technological partnerships. New equipment manufacturers are working with digital service companies, are working with ship owners and ship management companies to create new solutions, new services, and a new environment that delivers an improved customer support to ship owners around the globe. And those are the simple benefits of dedicated IoT connectivity. You can now deploy separate and segregated OT networks on board of vessels rapidly. It's easy to install, it's easily retrofittable on any vessel, no matter whether it's 30 years old or it's a brand new build coming out of the yard. Because that's something we got to think about. The vessels that are leaving the yards today, coming back to Captain Adami's presentation, they're not geared up for decarbonization. Many of them aren't. And we have to think how we can do the best and work the best with the tonnage that is arriving now in the field. So having a technology that allows you to deploy an OT network on board of the vessel that harnesses remote maintenance capabilities, remote survey capabilities, remote audits, vettings, troubleshooting activities, trainings, along with a rapid review by IT for maximum cybersecurity is a real breakthrough. Because now we're talking about a separate and dedicated network that's not connected to the crew network. It's not connected to the social media accounts of the crew members. It's not connected to the administration network, the emails, and the internet threat everything else is exposed to on board of the vessel. With a dedicated OT network, we're establishing machine-to-machine connectivity in the most cyber-secure fashion and format possible. So this is a way to reduce the cybersecurity risk, but also at the same time address the IMO's call for a cybersecurity self-assessment. What's better than telling the surveyor that there's a separate, clean network without any human interaction, dedicated to machine data, dedicated to a scalable set of digital solutions that are readily available in the industry? That's the answer that we need to provide to the industry, and those are services that are readily available. So being detached from the crew welfare network, it's completely uncontested, and you provide maximum bandwidth and at the same time maximum cybersecurity, and at the same time also enabling multiple IoT facets, anything from crane monitoring to cargo tracking or whatever suits the bill of the ship management company or the ship owner behind the tonnage. So when we're looking at this, just make jump back, screen is frozen. Well, we have a difference here is a superior asset management via remote interventions. And we talked about this briefly when we said it's the human factor that makes all the difference. So how do these things work in the field? Now, we have an IoT or a data-driven path to the maintenance and the service on board of vessels. And this could be an alert that's being triggered, an alarm that's being monitored ashore. It can be something that is being highlighted by the chief engineer and engineering officer in a very traditional way. But what it will do, it will highlight the attention of the people involved with the tonnage and the technical troubleshooting on board. So here we would bring the superintendent, sometimes also the equipment manufacturer, the engineering officer, together on a single call, and going beyond a Teams or a Zoom session, but with a dedicated tool that allows you to mark up videos, mark up pictures, share via white screen, a whiteboard, share manual notes, share technical manuals, and share drawings. So that's a way how people can interact, true experts. So there's an expert sitting there from the shipping company or from the ship management side. There's an expert there from the equipment manufacturer supporting the service. And then there's an expert on board of the vessel. And this human interaction creates something really unique, especially if it's carried out remotely. Because it's carried out when the vessel is not on its critical path. When the vessel's in port, the service looks completely different. The technician works in isolation because everybody has something to do while the vessel is on its critical path. And we're all watching the ETD. Now you take this same service and you deliver it in the middle of the ocean and the attitude changes from anyone. You're not dealing with a second tier or third tier trained technician in the middle of nowhere. No, you're dealing with a true expert who sits in the comfort of the office or at his home with manuals and technical troubleshooting colleagues readily available to support the vessel. We have the person using and utilizing the equipment on an everyday basis talking to the guy ashore. There's an interaction between these two people that can't be replicated anywhere else. They're sharing their experience and skill set. And yet, we're in a digital environment, all data-driven, all done with transparent access to assets and data. And when the service is carrying out, and the way these systems are designed, that only the master can actually approve a remote intervention. That's really important. It's always under the control of the owner. You can't have anybody accessing a vessel without anybody noticing. It's under the master's control. And once that takes place, the wireless access points in the engine room, in the cargo control room, on the bridge go live, and the human interaction can start to resolve a problem in the middle of the sea without the pressure of the ETD, with the appreciation of one another and the set of experience and skill sets won. So what else? What else do dedicated OT networks deliver? Well, they open the door to a wide range of services. We heard remote surveys today, and that's really important. Of course, it addresses the cost, but it also addresses the deployment of the service at the same time. If you want to schedule a survey, a live survey, a traditional one on board, as it should be done for the annual survey, you probably have to schedule that quite in advance. And I'm the wrong person to give off any specific time frames, but speak to your classification of choice of how long it takes to book this and schedule this service in advance. But from very reputable class societies, we've learned that a remote survey can be scheduled on short notice. And that's great when you're a spot charter and you have to deploy the vessel on short term. Just find that right time slot to squeeze in a survey or a follow-up survey to address compliance matters. Then we have dynamic voyage optimization systems. And when you look at that market, we're dealing with companies that are absolute analysts, scientists. That's their game plan. That's what they understand best. But in order to deploy those services, in most cases, they need access to sensors. So in order to get access to those sensors, additional hardware needs to be deployed. That is an antiquated approach, frankly speaking. Because once you have your OT network on board, you can harness the data, collect the data, share the data with the respective dynamic voyage optimization company, making those data tags available and accessible, and working with them without deploying additional hardware on board of the vessel, without another service on board, without another piece of hardware being installed. And you can play this with every single application here, but what it tells you, anything from energy utilization, so tracking of energy certificates, vessel tracking, cargo monitoring, even that's a topic on its own, whether we're talking about containerization, reefer tracking, environmental monitoring, automated MRV reports, automated noon reports, and fuel optimization, all of these matters actually dive down to the same source of data that best resides on a segregated and separate OT network where it can be made accessible under the control of the ship management, ship owning body. So let's look at this. We can come up with the best ideas in the industry. We can come up with the best technology in the world, but it also has to fit the business model. It has to be accessible, it has to be affordable. And I think this is where certain business models excel these days. As a technical manager, I have this challenge that a vessel enters the management, and I need to deal with it somehow. And during COVID, it's been really, really difficult to deploy a superintendent, to travel around, to assess the tonnage. So the obvious choice is to do a lot of this remotely. And what can be done today is that the vessel is being deployed with a dedicated OT terminal when it arrives in the management. That OT terminal will allow an immediate remote interaction with the vessel. So you can do the hull inspections, the cargo hold inspections, the vetting, all of this remotely without having to travel and without spending any capex. All these services are available as a service today. And they can be deployed without any long-term commitment. And they can be deployed along with the software that the management company prefers in order to be rolled out along the managed tonnage or even around the owned tonnage. So this software can be deployed remotely or preloaded, of course. And then the superintendents can run remote sessions to familiarize themselves with the tonnage, work with the crew, either only in cases of emergency or even on a daily basis, like a daily check-in, like what we're seeing in ground transportation and in air transportation, where assets are being checked in by the relatives, inspectors, and officers on a regular basis. And this is a way for a modern technical ship management company to extend its control that it exercises over own tonnage across vessels that are third-party managed. And a great way to increase cybersecurity and offer additional services and solutions to the owner behind the tonnage. So it creates an improved customer service, it creates improved asset management, and a clear competitive advantage to the ship management company. So all in all, I would like all of you to discuss these things, obviously, combined with the things that Captain Adami mentioned today. I think that's really thought-provoking. And I'd like to thank you for your patience and attentiveness. And I really hope that we're going to have a chance to talk a little bit about drinks. Keep a watchful eye on any type of media announcement and wherever you see this logo. And watch out for more interesting presentations along the day. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Sven. A couple of questions from the audience.
Okay.
Shouldn't shipping regulatory bodies make digitalization on vessels, especially new buildings, a must-have to track all the benefits of IoT connectivity you must refer to? If yes, why are they not doing it?
It's a big question. So I'm not sure I can answer all of it, but I certainly can answer a portion of it. There are certain topics that are of importance: decarbonization, IoT, and remote connectivity. Now, what I feel is that there's a disconnect. I had the pleasure of attending, together with my colleague David, the Smart Maritime Network in Copenhagen last week, where obviously in Copenhagen decarbonization has been an important topic. And it is clear that there's a disconnect at the new build stage and at the design stage. I think a lot of ship designers haven't considered IoT and OT networks at design stage quite yet. And the whole decarbonization drive is something that is currently more important after the delivery. So there's a disconnect between Poseidon principles and ESG, and how a ship is actually being built, and the decarbonization at the end. And that's the frustrating part, that as an industry, we cannot link these two things together. Why can we still build, why is it still allowed to build relatively inefficient tonnage? Why aren't there enough subsidies, why aren't there enough tax incentives to ensure that at build stage and design stage, we can actually include the technology that's necessary to run a cleaner ship? Why isn't, coming back to the previous presentation, the whole recycling of the tonnage not part of the thought process and of the investment that we're making today? I think why it's not the case, I can't tell you, I'm afraid. But those are the things we all need to collectively drive. And we come across OEMs that are doing their bit, we're coming across ship management and ship owners that are doing their bit, but we also need to reel in the shipyards and the ownership and obviously the capital side of things to ensure these things are linked together.
And what are the challenges when implementing an IoT infrastructure on board, and how long does it take to implement such an infrastructure?
So the rollout, it really depends on the solution. So what we've seen in the field, obviously fuel optimization services is always at the forefront of everybody's mind. Obviously it's green, but it also saves a few bucks here and there. That shouldn't be overlooked. At the same time, remote services and remote auditing is a piece that can be rolled out very quickly. So we're looking really at a day or two max to roll the infrastructure out on a vessel, and it doesn't matter whether that's an old vessel or a new vessel. It gets a little bit more complex if you're looking at customized solutions, or if you're looking at very thorough solutions, so full digital twins, and it's a terminology that's not even defined, so you can fill that with a lot of life, but true digital twins are very complex matter. When we're looking at fuel optimization, we're usually looking at connecting to the alarm monitoring control system, connecting to the nav sensors to ensure that all that data is being made available. That can be done relatively quickly. So it's not a major investment, but it's part of this new technology partnership model of this whole IoT journey starts with a technical workshop between you, your supplier of choice, perhaps even a third party that brings in some special expertise. There's some really interesting solutions out there, and just recently we've been talking to an owner to deploy a crane monitoring solutions that monitors the crane and the cycle times of the crane in tidal ports, which is a really interesting approach. So you're combining tidal information and external data with the vessel, with the vessel's operation of clearing the cargo and loading new cargo, and that requires the operational expertise of the shipping company. It requires the expertise of connectivity providers such as ourselves at KVH, where we're providing the connectivity from the sensor level to the external source. And it requires also the expertise of an installing body and some technicians that obviously carry out the installation. Pulling all of this together, together with some strategic partners, then ensures that such a system is deployed within a couple of months and can be rolled out across a fleet.
Thank you, Sven.
You're welcome. Thanks.